Hello. In this video we're going to go over how to place deformer joints. These deformation joints will be placed inside of the character in such a way that it'll articulate the mesh later on. We'll start by doing the spine, and then we'll do the left leg and the left arm and hand and fingers. It's important to get this step right and follow along carefully so that we can mirror what we do on the left side to the right side, and we have everything where we expect it to be. As far as the spine goes, as we build it, we won't need to do every single joint in the spine. We just need to do enough to be able to articulate our character as a puppet. So let's start in with creating those joints. So here's our character. We want to start by being in our rigging menu and going to Skeleton, Create Joints, and that changes our tool to a Joints tool, and we have this this crosshairs telling us that we have our correct tool selected. Now we want to do this right in the center of the character, and we want all the rotations to line up perfectly when we do it. So the best way to ensure that is to go into our side view or right view. So holding down the space bar and then left clicking and going to right view will switch us to our right view. First joint that we're going to create is going to be our root joint, which is sort of our center of gravity in the center of where our hips are. So our character, when we move it, that will be sort of the center of gravity movement of everything. So that'll be right in the center here, below the waistline, right in the center of the mass. And I'll click once to create that joint, and visibly you don't see anything, but you do see that something showed up over here. So what's going on? Well, we can't see it. It's actually inside of the mesh, so we need to actually turn on X-ray. So up here at the top of your window, X-ray joints, you turn that on, and then you see that little bit right there. That's our first joint. So our first joint is there. Let's make our second joint, which is going to be right near the belly, just below the belly button, kind of offset a little bit to the back. Then we want something that's below the rib cage a little bit. And then we want something that's in the middle of the rib cage. You can actually click and drag to decide where you want it. So I'm kind of clicking and dragging to make sure that I've got something. It doesn't have to be perfectly straight. It just needs to be kind of following the body. Then one more at the neck, base of the neck, one more at the base of the skull, and then one more at the top of the head. Anywhere, it doesn't have to be perfectly straight up and down, it can just be somewhere at the top of the head. And now we're done with that first joint chain. Hit enter, and that completes it. So now you can see we've got this first joint chain working here. Actually, I don't really like the way that turned that corner so fast. So if I don't really like the way it worked out, I'm going to try rotating the joint. So I'll rotate that a little bit that way. Rotate this one a little bit back to position it. Rotate this one. That all looks good. So I'm just using the rotation so that it keeps its rotation axes as it goes. So that feels pretty good for the spine. Let's go, it's important that we make sure that we name these things correctly. So let's make sure that we name them all. So in our outliner, here's our first joint of the chain. This is the parent of all of them. And actually it needs to be called, I'm going to double click and call it root. Call that root. And then to see all the rest of the children, it's quick to shift, hold down shift and click on the plus that you can see there. All of these have a minus plus that you can open. So if you do the top one and hit shift, it'll open them all up. We'll go through these and we'll call this spine, and I want you to name these the same as I do. Although it really doesn't matter what your naming convention is, it's important that you understand it and you keep track of it. But for this class, I'd like you to use the naming conventions that I use so that I know that you're building this all on your own. So spine 1, spine 2, spine 3. This one is going to be called neck. This one is going to be called head. And this one will be called head underscore end, because it's really not part of moving the head. It's really just the end joint, and that's okay. So we have our first joint chain. Now let's look at it in perspective view. You can see that it's in the middle of the character, and that looks adequate. It looks like how it should be. Let's go on to the leg. So if we want to build, I'll deselect. If we want to build the leg, it's kind of dark with this texture. Let's just look at it with the default texture. So I'll go up here to my texture, my textured setting, and just click on it to toggle it to the default texture setting. So now I can see the character a little better. I can tell where the knee is, and just a little bit easier to see with that gray. And actually, if I want to see all the vertices on it, like when I click on it, I can see all the edges. In the viewport, I can actually choose to see wireframe unshaded. Turn that on, that's a toggle, and I'll see all of those vertices. So that'll help me when I'm building it to know sort of where there's a little more density here, where there's where the knee is. And when we build the leg, we want to make sure that it's nice and straight from the front, and from the side has a nice angle to it and sort of is fitting on a plane similar to the spine. So let's move on to the leg and also do it from the side view. So right view, and I can see it here. I'm going to go to my joint tool, choose somewhere around here where I think that the hip bone is connecting in there to the pelvis. Up about here, click once, and then click again down here and drag until I feel like I've found sort of where the knee is. Don't go right in the center or straight down. You want to go a little bit forward so that there's going to be a bend to the knee. And then I'll click again down here at the ankle. You can see it's made sort of a bend in that knee. Click down here towards the ankle, and then I'm going to zoom in down here and make sure that I get that where the toes are going to bend is somewhere around here. And then if I click again right on top of that joint and pull it out and hold down Shift, it'll force it to go straight. And I'm going to just use that here to make it go straight, just to make that a nice straight bone. So that's another thing that you can do, is make those things straight if you like. And hit enter. And now we've completed that leg. The thing that we want to do is see it in perspective mode and see what happens. So it's perfectly aligned with a plane going down the center, but it's not in the right spot. So let's go to translate, or the move tool. Let's look at it straight from the front. So I'll hold down my space bar and left click in the middle where it says Maya and change to front view. And I can make sure that it's lined up exactly with, I'm looking at the ankle, making sure that it's lined up down there. It looks just right. That looks good. So now that leg is lined up, and now let's name it correctly. So we'll start with the top joint of the leg. We can call it thigh, and actually we'll call it thigh underscore L, because now we're dealing with the character's left side is how we name everything. So right and left is not from how you're looking at them from the front. Right and left is from their perspective. So when you're creating a character rig, always think it's from the perspective of the character you're building. So that's thigh underscore L. And using that underscore L for left will make it easier later when we want to mirror it over. It's going to be easy to replace those names for the other side real quickly. So thigh L, and then this will be knee underscore L, and then we'll have ankle underscore L, and then we'll just call it toe underscore L, and the last one is toe underscore end underscore L. So now we have our second joint chain. It's going to be our leg. So we want to do the same thing with the arm, and we want to make sure that with the arm we're using a nice flat plane, so that the reason we do that for the leg, it's nice to have a mesh that's pretty straight up and down. And you might want to make your mesh conform to this straight up and down versus having it sort of bow-legged in some way, because the way that you get the leg to cooperate when you're adding some constraints like inverse kinematics is it needs to know which way to bend, and if it's got a bend in one direction and it's also got a bend in another direction, then controlling where that knee joint or the elbow joint goes just makes it more complicated. So try and reduce the amount of complication you have by really using these orthographic views to build your limbs, and then if you need to, you can kind of rotate the parent into place if you have to do any rotation. So let's see what happens with this arm here, see if we can figure that out. So I'm going to go to the top view, and we'll see our character from the top view orthographic. Now I'm going to need one bone for the clavicle, so let's select our joint tool and start somewhere around here for the clavicle. And I'll select a little bit, not right in the middle of where the arm is, but a little bit forward, because that's kind of where the clavicle is. Make it natural. So we'll click once there, and then I'll click again and kind of drag until I feel like I've found the center point of this shoulder where I think it's going to rotate from. Seems about right. Something around there. And then I'll left click again and move it back just a little to where I think that the elbow is, somewhere around here. And then I'll left click again here to where the joint for the hand is. And then to make sure that that hand is going at the right angle, right now it's sort of pointing this direction, I'm going to click one last time over here so that I know that that's sort of the direction that the hand is going. I'm going to hit enter, and that actually just helped me align that bone. I don't need this last end piece, so I'm just going to delete it. But what that did was it kind of aligned that to it. Okay, so now we've got that. Looks good. Let's look at it in perspective mode. Where'd it go? Oh, it's way down here. Okay, let's grab this. And we need to pull it way up here. So let's bring it way up here, and let's figure out from front view where exactly this fits. So I want this collarbone to be somewhere around here. And what I'll do is I'll rotate. I'll rotate to get that shoulder joint kind of where I need it to be. And then I'll rotate this down. And actually, something about rotating is if you're really right on this curve here and you're rotating, you don't have as much fine control. So if you actually pull your mouse out while you're rotating it, you have finer control being further out once you've clicked on it. So if I click on it and then pull out a little bit, I have a little bit more fine control. Maybe I want to bring this down just a little bit so it's more centered. That arm, and then bring this up and rotate it into place. And so that feels about right. I do feel like this this bone here is not quite, it needs to sort of rotate up a little bit, so I'm going to rotate it up a little bit. And it also feels like it's too far forward. Maybe it could go a little bit further back. So how I might move it back a little bit and keep these rotations the way that I want them is I can translate, but when I translate, I can choose, let's look at it from the top view. If I double click on the translate, I can see I'm oriented towards the world space for movement. So it's world space. And I actually want it to go along the bone, but just back a little bit. So anytime I need to move something, translate something, but along its own local axes. So there's local axes for things as well as world axes. So there's sort of everything exists in a world space, but they also have their components kind of have their own local space. I can switch to object and watch what happens. It just click, it rotated a little bit. And what that means is that this joint is actually pointing down X. So its local direction is down its local x-axis. So if I want to make it, pull it back a little bit, I can, and it's going along its own local object axis. Okay, so that's something I can do. Actually, I want to rotate this one a little bit, so I'll go to the rotate. Rotate is a little much, and then I'll put this one back this way. So it's centered. So I'm using rotate for the most part. The end one, I was using that translate, but for the most part, I just get it placed and then start with the parent and rotate them to get them back. It'll create less headaches later. Okay, so now we have this arm. We'll finish the hand in a minute, but let's make sure that we have everything labeled correctly. So this one, I'll open all these up with shift click on that plus. This one is going to be clavicle, so clavicle underscore L. This one's going to be shoulder underscore L. This will be elbow underscore L. This will be hand underscore L. Okay, so now we've done the arm. Now let's work on, at this point we want to work on fingers. It's usually easiest to do a finger from the side view, or the front view actually, and then duplicate it. So let's make sure from the front view, let's go front view, okay, and we'll just look at one of these fingers. If I look at it from the top for a sec, I can see that this finger is kind of at an angle, so it's not really representative in the front view of the actual length, but we can use it to start. We'll get it sorted. So front view, we want to see how we could build a finger. I might actually base it on that middle finger, knowing that the knuckle is there, and then another knuckle is here, and another knuckle is here. Why don't I just start a new joint chain, and I'll start it where I think the middle of the finger is here. So middle of the middle finger is somewhere around there. I'll click once. Right there. And here's the next knuckle is somewhere around here. The next knuckle is somewhere around here. And then I'll do one for the tip. It's nice to have a tip one as well. And then I'll hit enter, and that's created a finger. So let's look at it in perspective mode and see where it landed. Get up close to it. If you want to fit a selection in your viewport, like it's getting really hard to tumble around it, you can hit F, and that'll fit it into the view, and then it'll by default it'll rotate around that. So what I'll do for this one is go into translate and translate it on top of this finger here, and we'll see how that looks. Looks like that knuckle Looks right. It looks like it's kind of lined up. It's just not at the right angle. So I'll need to rotate it a little bit to make it work. So I'll select it. I'll go to rotate, and I'll rotate it this way a little bit until it lines up and fits inside the finger. Okay, feels good. Next up, let's do this this first finger. So I don't really need to rebuild it. All I need to do is duplicate what I have and move some things around. So let's duplicate. So edit, duplicate, not special, just regular duplicate, which is also Control D. Duplicate, and it just made one right on top of it. There it is. So we'll go to our move tool. We'll move it over. We'll try and line up that knuckle at the top there. Something like that. Let's look at it from the very top view. Make sure that we line it up nice. So top view, figure out where that knuckle starts, and then we'll rotate and get it lined up in a straight line. And then we'll move these back. So I'll select this one, and I'll go to my move tool. I'll double click on it to make sure I'm in object, not world. If I'm in world and I move it, it's going to go off kilter and change my rotation. What I really want is object. So I'll leave it on object, and then I can just move it back until it lines up with that knuckle. Grab this one, same thing, move it back until it's lined up. Move that one forward a little. Now we'll tumble around in perspective mode and make sure it looks correct. Looks like, you know, naturally the hand has an arc to it, and it's actually at an angle here. So what we'll want to do is select this whole thing and probably move it down a little bit so it's not from front view. This finger is down a little bit, and rotate just a little, and then rotate it up. Okay, so it's matching a little bit better. Okay. So now we have our next finger there. You know, that index finger and the ring finger are similar. So I'm going to Control D, or edit, duplicate, and then I'll hit W to move it. I'm going to move it in world space. So I'm just moving it in world space to get it where I want it to be. Looks okay. Let's see. Somewhere around there is the knuckle. Feels all right. Now let's look at it in top view. And I'm going to rotate it. So hotkey for rotate is E, so I tapped E, move it back this way. Maybe it's a little farther forward. So in top view, looking at it, and get it lined up pretty good. Go to my move tool here. I'll make it object now because I'm going to do some tweaking of it. Move it a little bit farther forward. Feels like this is a little bit farther forward than that. This seems about right. This one seems about right. Yeah, they all seem pretty good. So now what about the pinky? Let me select this one. We'll duplicate it, Control D. Move it over. And we'll have to do some messing with this. So move it down so it's kind of inside the pinky. Move it back so it's right where that knuckle is. Kind of creates an arc here naturally. And then move this one back to where that knuckle is. Move this one back to where that knuckle is, and this end part can move back a little. And let's move it down a little bit. There we go. Feels about right. So now we have those fingers done, and then we need one for the thumb. So the thumb's going to help us understand some some of the things we need to do with local rotation axes next. But for this, we'll take this first finger and duplicate it, and then we're going to figure out where this initial spot is, inside of your hand is where that starts. Somewhere around in here. And then actually, you can see that these all have their local, let's make sure we're in object space. Their Y is pointing up. For their local Y is pointing up. So pointing out from where the knuckles are. So I want the knuckle area, I want the Y to be pointing out that direction. And you'll see later why that's important. But what I can do is I can go to rotate, and I'll rotate it this way so that I can see it in the top view, or to rotate it that way. And then I need to rotate it on X sideways. Like that, something like that, so that you can see when I go to the move tool that the Y is pointing out from the knuckles. So I'll rotate this down to here, figure out where that is. Actually might need to move this down a little bit. Into the hand a little bit more. And out. Feels like where it goes, somewhere like that. A little bit further down. Pretty close. Let's get this rotated a little bit. This knuckle is right here. We need to move that back. So let's use our translate and move it back to where that knuckle's going to be. That knuckle is around there, a little bit further down. And then this can come out. So that's kind of what the thumb does. Looks okay. We have all those hand joints in there. And now, before we move on, we want to freeze some of these transformations and connect them all together too. We can connect these things. So let's make sure that we parent them correctly. So I will start with this is going to be the parent of all of them. Oh, we'll need to name these fingers. So let's go quickly and name these fingers first. So this first joint here, we did that. That's the middle. So I'm going to call this middle. So the first finger there, you'll need to call, need to have a number for it so that you know there's 1, 2, 3, whatever they are. So it's middle 1, L, and then this is middle 2, L. This is middle 3, L, and middle, well, at this point you can say middle end, middle underscore end L, because we don't really use that to manipulate the finger as much as tell us where that last joint was. So we'll go through and do these other ones too. So we'll call this pointer. So pointer 1 underscore L, pointer 2 underscore L, pointer 3 underscore L, pointer 4 underscore L, or actually that's pointer end. Pointer end underscore L. Okay, quickly go through these. Here is, we'll call this ring 1 underscore L, ring 2 underscore L, ring 3, underscore L, and ring end. Ring, whoops, ring underscore end underscore L. Okay, 2 more. Pinky, pinky 1 underscore L, pinky 2 underscore L. Oops. Pinky 3 and pinky end. Last one is thumb. Let's open these up. Thumb 1 underscore L. Thumb, oops. Thumb 2 underscore L. Thumb 3 underscore L. Thumb end underscore L. Okay? Look at all these joints you've made. Okay? There's a lot there. A lot to deal with here. We want to connect those. We want to connect them, and then we want to run a freeze transformation on them. So remember when we did freeze transformation on the mesh, it sort of zeroed it out in a sense. Well, we did some rotations on there. We want all the rotations to be 0. Some of these we rotated. Let's see. Let's look at some of the ones that we rotated. This elbow we rotated. This shoulder we rotated. So we rotated them to get them into place. Now it's okay to rotate them. We've got them pointing down the axes that we want them to. We've rotated them, but when we start animating, the default position that the entire armature, the deformation joints need to be in, is with all the rotations at 0. Translations are okay because that tells it where it is in space. If all the translations were 0, they would all be at the origin. But the rotations are important to have as 0 because that's the starting point for the initial pose called the bind pose of the character. So if you ever want to get back to this pose again, it's easiest if all the rotations can just be set to 0. So that's why we use a freeze transformation. So what we'll do is first we'll make we'll parent them all. So what is parenting? There's a couple ways to do it. I can select the thigh and in the outliner, middle mouse click on it, and drag it onto the root, because that will be the parent of the thigh. And I can do that, and it makes a connection there, and now they're connected. So if I move the root joint, the spine and the leg go with it. Now for the clavicle, I want it connected to spine 3, so middle mouse click on that, drag it over spine 3 on top of it, and it connects it. You can see that connection that it made there. Same thing with all these fingers. So I want all of the fingers to connect to the hand. So I need to see the hand here. So I'm going to shift click on the plus there so I can see the hand. And then I'm going to do it thumb in an order here. So I'll start with a thumb. Make sure that I've got it connected to hand. So now it's connected. And now I'll choose pointer, middle mouse click, and drag it on top of hand. Now it's connected. Now middle, select middle, middle mouse click and drag it onto hand. Now ring, middle mouse click and drag it onto hand. And now pinky, middle mouse click and drag it onto hand. Okay, if I click on this minus at the root, it all collapses under that. So now I have this side of the character done as far as the deformation joint placement goes. We still have to see if their rotations are correct, but the placement is correct. And if I shift click on the minus sign, it'll open up the entire hierarchy. And so this is all that you've built. And this is something that's going to be very common to see is the spine connected to the root. The spine is the child of that. Then the spine 3 is the child of spine 2. And then you see this line come down from spine 3. This is another child. So this is a child of spine 3. This is a child of spine 3. Both of those. See how they both come from spine 3. Then the shoulder goes all the way down, and when we get to hand, you see this big long line here. This is saying these are, you think of it like a tree. These are like leaves or branches that come off. So this is a branch that comes out to all of the thumb, a branch that comes down to the pointer, a branch that comes down to the middle, ring, pinky. And then actually all the way from root, you see this big long line here, that's pointing us down to the thigh. So it brings us all the way down here, and then this is the thigh. It's coming out of there. So this is a joint hierarchy, and this is one joint hierarchy now that's all been completed for one side. In the next video, we're going to talk about local rotation axes and how to make sure that the rotations of your joints are correct so that they're working the way you expect them to, and makes animation easier to do in the future. Okay. Since we have done some rotations in here, we need to make sure that we freeze transform them so that their rotations are all at 0. So the way that we do that is selecting all of the joints. So let's start by clicking on root and then scrolling down in our outliner and then holding down shift and left clicking on the very last joint. So that's how we've selected everything. We know we've selected them all. You can also, since all we have are joints in here, you can do select all by type, and then you can go find joints, and it'll select all the joints individually. It's not good enough to just select root, and it looks like it's all selected, but it's really just the root joint that's selected. So select all by type joints. We have all the joints selected. We want to go to modify, freeze transformations options, because we don't want to, you want to see what happens if we do this without changing it. It doesn't do what we want. We want to make sure that all we're doing is rotation and scale. Okay, so freeze transform. Now let's see if that rotation, see, there's no rotations there anymore. So no rotation on the hand, no rotation on anything. So that means if we were to take some of these, let's just grab a few here, go into rotate and rotate them around and do weird stuff, make them all rotated strangely. I can take all these and rotate them. You get into some crazy mess. I can just do select all by type joints, go to rotate over here. I've selected all of them. I can change all of the rotate attributes of all selected objects at once, selecting those rotate. Even though they say 0, that's because the last thing I have selected is 0. But the other ones have rotations in them. If I hit 0, it'll force them all to be 0, and then I hit enter. So now we know that that's 0 rotations on everything. So when there's 0 rotations, now we're set up, we're ready to look at the local rotation axes and set up those, make sure that they're all correct and things are pointing the right direction. It's a little tedious to figure out how to work it out, but we'll get through it, and then we'll have a good deformation set of joints.